Okay, guys, sorry about the last video. It got cut off because my phone died, so I'm going to try again. Let me zoom in a little more here. All right, and I want to work one more problem with you, problem number 6 from your worksheet, because it's a little bit different. And what I noticed that's different about this is that it has something in common with each of the terms here. Each one of these numbers can be divided by a 2 or a 4. Well, we're going to pick 4 because we go with what we call the greatest common factor. And I'm going to do what I call factor out of 4. To do that, I put 4 in front of a parentheses, and then I take each of these terms and divide it by 4. So that if I were to use the distributive property and multiply it back out, I get these numbers, but I get a simplified version inside the parentheses. 4r squared divided by 4, well, 4 divided by 4 is 1, so I'm left with 1r squared, or simply r squared. Negative 60 divided by 4 gives me negative 15. And I keep the r. Plus 216 divided by 4, it's fine if you need to use your calculator, gives me 54. So what I've done so far is do what I call factor out a common factor. So my next step is going to be to use that generic rectangle now to factor the piece that's inside the parentheses. So just as the notes say, I'm going to write down what I know, the r squared from inside the parentheses and the 54. I also know that negative 15r goes here. And I multiply these two together to get the top, or the product. Now the next thing I need to do is find two numbers that multiply to 54 and add or subtract to negative 15. Well, is it going to be add or subtract? If this number is positive, I know they either have to be both positive or both negative to get a positive product. So I'm going to be adding their values together. We'll deal with it being a negative 15 after we figure out our two numbers. So I'm going to go through and factor 54. I'm going to think, what numbers can I multiply to get 54? And I always like to start with 1 times the number. Then I think about 2. Can I divide 54 by 2? If you're not sure, just take 54, put it in the calculator, divide it by 2. 2 times 27 gives me 54. Then if I go with 3, 54 divided by 3 is 18. So 3 times 18 is another way to get 54. Now if I try 4, 54 divided by 4 gives me a decimal. And we don't use decimals when we factor. If you have to use decimals, we typically say it does not factor. So 4 is not a factor, 5 is not a factor, but 6, if I take 54 divided by 6, I get 9, so 6 times 9 is a factor. Now when I look at this list, which pair can add up to 15? Hopefully you notice that 6 plus 9 can give you 15, so we're going to use those two numbers. We are going to do 6r and 9r. And then because it needs to be negative 15, I'm going to make them both negative. Why does that work? Well, when I multiply negative times a negative, I get a positive for my product, but when I combine them or get their sum, I get a negative 15r. All right, now those numbers are going to come back over here into the two empty boxes. Doesn't matter which one goes where. And I'm going to look at, if I cover up this column for just a minute, and look down this column, what is my common factor there? Well, the only thing that will go into both of those terms is an r. There's no number besides 1, so all I have is r. Then I know that r times r will give me r squared, so I'm going to put an r here. Then I say r times what width will give me negative 9r in this box. I need negative 9. And finally, r is my width, so what length do I need to get negative 6r? Well, I need negative 6. Now I want you to notice that these two numbers here were the same numbers that I got in my diamond problem. When the number in front of r squared or x squared or whatever our variable is 1, or in other words, you don't see the number there, then you can skip this last step. because the numbers from your generic rectangle become your factors as well. The -6 just came here, the -9 here. That only works if you have a plain r squared, x squared, n squared, or whatever. No number in front, no coefficient. All right, finally we want to write our answer in factored form. We still have this factored out 4 that we're going to carry over. But then we have our two factors from the diamond and rectangle, r minus 6, close parentheses, and new parentheses, r minus 9. That is our fully factored form of this problem. Oops, sorry about that going off. R minus 9. All right, take your time. Pause if you need to pause. Go back and watch it again. Good luck working this worksheet, and we are going to be using this skill as we move forward into our next unit. That's why we're reviewing it from Algebra 1. If you're pretty good at it, thank your Algebra 1 teacher. If you need some more practice, that's fine too. We'll be practicing it next week some more. All right, I will see you tomorrow. Good luck with the worksheet.